Good morning, Gretchen Ho. We're coming to you on the 22nd day of January. It is a Thursday, bringing you Morning Matters because your morning's match get to the stories that matter today. Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Ping Lacson has slammed the minority bloc's report on the flood control scandal, labeling it as a sign of disrespect toward the entire chamber. A new set of corruption complaints have been lodged against Vice President Duterte at the Office of the Ombudsman. The complaints focus on the alleged misappropriation of confidential funds in both the Education Department and Davao City. And after being out of the public eye for almost 2 months, Senator Bato de la Rosa released a birthday message to confirm he is alive and well. Welcome to our program, Morning Matters, where we talk about the issues you need to know for the rest of your day. Now, first on the agenda. Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Ping Lacson is hitting back after the minority bloc released its own report on the committee's flood control scandal probe. Here's the report.
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Panfilo Lacson has called out the minority bloc's report on the committee's investigation into the flood control scandal, saying it shows disrespect for the committee and the entire Senate. Lacson asked how he could respect a document that, in his words, symbolizes disrespect not only to the committee, but to the whole Senate. He said the minority senators as veteran lawmakers should know there is a proper procedure in adopting a committee report in plenary. Lacson added they are not being stopped from proposing amendments, but there is a proper time for it, and they should not preempt the Blue Ribbon Committee. In a minority report, a matrix was also presented, showing politicians, public officials, and private individuals allegedly linked to the flood control scandal, all pointing to former House Speaker Martin Romualdez. Senate President Tito Sotto earlier said the minority report is just a piece of paper with no weight. He said it did not go through the proper process and should not have been submitted directly to his office. In an interview on Storycon, Senator Lacson said Senate President Tito Sotto made the right call. He also remarked that the minority bloc appears to be struggling to move forward.
Na tama yung ginawa niya, ni-refer sa akin. Ngayon, anong gagawin ko doon? Anong disposition? Trust kan. May mga bitter Hindi matanggap na hindi na sila nasa majority. They cannot move on.
Senator Risa Hontiveros said she has not yet read the minority report, but she agrees with claim that former Speaker Martin Romualdez bears responsibility.
Leadership has greater responsibility talaga. And kaya rin sinimulan at ipinagpapatuloy ng Blue Ribbon. Nabanggit yung pangalan nila. So, I guess bukas din yung pagkakataon na dumalo sila sa susunod na pagdinig at ibigay yung kanilang panig.
Romualdez may be invited by the committee but he cannot be compelled to appear due to parliamentary courtesy. And while the minority bloc may be disappointed with how the hearings have been going, Hontiveros said she has a different view.
Satisfied at dahil alam kong magpapatuloy siya. Hindi pa siya na-adjourn, magtatawag pa ng susunod na hearing. Yung coordinates, nakaka-frustrate talaga yung issue iyan. Tuloy na sayang ang oras, ang resources, pati ang pasensya ng taong bayan.
Hontiveros also challenged contractor Curly Discaya to fully cooperate with the investigation and to stop playing the victim. Discaya earlier said it would be like they were being robbed if they were made to return their wealth.
May ilan na pong nagsabi na medyo makapal daw po yung mukha ni Curly Discaya.
Medyo?
Nang sinabi po niyang parang
sila
nanakawan.
I know, right? Kaya talagang ilan sa amin halos mahulog sa silya. I mean, hello, sasabihin niya na ninakawan sila. Parang, parang hinold up tayo. Tapos kailangan pa nating mag-sorry sa hold-upper. I mean, tigilin na ng mga Discaya yung ganyang pag-iiwas sa mga tanong.
Hontiveros said they are still looking for a ledger that the Discaya Group had promised to submit. She called it a missing piece in the investigation, as it allegedly contains their transactions from 2016 to 2022.
The bagong Alyansa Makabayan is set to file today, January 22, a second impeachment complaint against President Bongbong Marcos. The group accuses the president of betrayal of public trust in connection with the national budget and the flood control scandal. 3 lawmakers from the Makabayan bloc are expected to endorse the complaint. Just last Monday, lawyer Andre De Jesus filed a separate impeachment complaint, which was transmitted to the Speaker's office yesterday. Authorities are now verifying new information that former Congressman Zaldi Co allegedly wants to sit down with government officials. Arlis Dos Santos with the report.
Almost 2 months since his last video drop, where he alleged a kickback scheme involving high-ranking officials and the 2026 national budget, resigned Congressman Zaldi Co has sent feelers for a dialogue with the government. At least that's according to the DILG secretary.
Meron na siyang feelers na through sa mga ibang pare na kilala niya. Not exactly, parang nagpapakonect na gustong ng dialogue sa amin. So, pero of course, that's not verified. Parang nagsabi pa lang, sinabi ng kaibigan na pinaparating.
Co has an arrest warrant for corruption and malversation of public funds from the Sandigan Bayan over the poorly constructed road dike project in Auhan Oriental, Mindoro worth 289.5 million pesos. He is also accused of involvement in budget insertions and project kickbacks as high as 25 to 40%. According to the DILG chief, his brother, Ombudsman Boying Remulla, is willing to initiate the dialogue with COSCAB. But for now, verification is ongoing.
Alam ko lang may nagre-reach out. So, no exact personalities. Wala akong pangalan. Siyempre, we take them seriously. Yung gusto makapag-dialogue, kakausapin namin yan. Pero kung bribe, wag na. wag na kami kausapin.
Authorities still believe Co is in hiding in Portugal, which Remulla admits is not an easy matter as Portugal does not have an extradition treaty with the Philippines.
Pag before the issuance of the passport, pwede siya i-deport. Kung nasa kanya na yung passport, then he committed the crime. Then he has to be tried there. Criminal mind talaga. May escape route ka agad eh. Diba? Galing na escape route yun. Maaga pa lang Feb. 1 year na siya. Nasa Na 1 year na siya abroad. Hindi nakauwi dito.
For his part, Justice Secretary Frederick Vida is yet to receive news on cost fillers. But whether or not the dialogue will be conducted with Co, Vida says such won't affect the complaints the former Ako Bicol Party List representative is facing.
We don't weigh evidences na wala naman doon sa proseso. No? So, pag sinabi mo lang feelers, paano makaka-apekto yun? Diba? Kasi siyempre, ang pagbabasihan ng ating mga piskal, ng ating mga prosecutors, na yung pag-evaluate ng iba't ibang pira-pirasong ebidensya, ay kung ano yung sinasabit sa kanila.
Meanwhile, former DPWH Engineer Henry Alcantara's custody has now been transferred from the Senate to the Department of Justice's Witness Protection Program. But the DOJ refused to divulge Alcantara's exact location for his protection. The Justice Chief says Alcantara will still be able to attend Senate hearings.
Whenever necessary, no? Of course, the end here is really for cooperation, no? For our witnesses. At yun nga, kaya nga sila na-admit sa program eh. Diba? Sila ay nakikipagtulungan sa ating pamahalaan para mapatibay ang mga kaso at magkaroon ng successful na paglilitis.
Other so-called state witnesses, former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo, former DPWH Regional Director Gerard Opolencia, and contractor Sally Santos are being strictly monitored by the DOJ.
Hindi pa po napapag-usapan kung saan sila i-house. Okay? Now, right now, they're at liberty to roam and to travel wherever they want. Diba? But of course, yung movement nila is strictly monitored by the WPP dahil kailangan po nila humarap eh. Diba? Kailangan po nila humarap bilang state witness eventually once trial commences.
Preliminary investigation is also ongoing on other complaints in connection to the flood control scandal. One of the respondents, Senator Joel Villanueva, was permitted more time to file his counter-affidavit. And the DOJ is soon to release subpoenas for former DPWH Secretary Manny Bonoan and Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Kapatid Arles de los Santos, we are One News.
Coming right up, former Senate President Franklin Drilon joins the show to share his insights on the latest developments over at the Senate. Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a quick break. Keep it here. Good morning, Gretchen Ho. Here at Morning Matters, we talk about the most pressing issues and give the context behind the headlines. As we know, a Senate war is brewing over the flood control scandal probe after the minority bloc released its own report. Blue Ribbon Chairman Ping Lacson hit back, calling it disrespectful and saying it has no weight, insisting only the official committee can report counts. Senator Amy Marcos defended the move, saying their report is for the Filipino people, while Senate President Tito Soto said it's just a piece of paper unless it goes through proper plenary process. The report also names former Speaker Martin Romualdez, who has denied any involvement. With us now on the show, we have former Senate President Franklin Drilon to weigh in on the latest developments. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Thank you very much, Gretchen, for having me this morning.
From your experience, how often does this occur that inuunahan ng minority itong committee leadership, and how serious is the Senate war over the minority report procedure-wise and politically?
Firstly, the assessment that of Senator Soto, of Senate President, that this is a mere piece of paper, is consistent with the rules. I must say outright that the procedure followed is not in accordance with the Senate procedure, and it is indeed discourteous to the committee itself. Because under our rule, firstly, we must emphasize that the Senate works through committees. And in this particular case, the Blue Ribbon is the committee charged with investigating the anomalies. And therefore, at this point, it is not even the Senate, it is the committee. And therefore, all inquiries, all submissions must be to the committee. The fact that it was submitted to the Senate President raises an issue on why was it raised, why was it sent to the Senate President, when in truth and in fact, under the rules of the Senate, it must be referred to the Blue Ribbon Committee, which is now hearing the issue. Now, the Blue Ribbon Committee, when it drafts its report, can take into account what the minority senators said in the report. And now the allegations in the letter can be considered by the committee when it drafts its final report. So really, it is with all due respect to my former colleagues, as a former senator, with all due respect to Senators Marcoleta and Marcos, they violated rules of procedure of the Senate. And I do not see any other reason for the leadership to do except what they did.
But wasn't this report submitted to Senate President Tito Soto? Is it that what also you're talking about, na isasubmit nila ho yun, tapos pwedeng i-consider? Isn't that, weren't they right in doing that, going through that process? So...
No, that is not the correct process.
Okay, so what is the correct process?
The correct process is to file it with the Blue Ribbon Committee, who has jurisdiction
not
right
the
now
Senate
over the
President.
flood control mess. I repeat, it should be addressed to the Blue Ribbon Committee, not to the Senate President. Because right now, the Blue Ribbon Committee has jurisdiction. Now, kaya sa akin, mali yung ginawa. At hindi ko po malaman, bahala na ang taong bayan to make a conclusion why this procedure was followed. In my stint in the Senate, there were instances when we filed minority reports. And the minority report is considered, but we submitted it to the committee in charge or hearing the case. They can append it as part of the committee report submitted to the Senate, or they can consider it as part of the committee report. Second point, Gretchen, Senators Marcoleta and Marcos are not prevented from airing their views in the of what is contained in the committee report in the plenary session itself. The Blue Ribbon committee will submit its report, the majority report, signed by the majority of the members of the Blue Ribbon. In the course of the debate over this committee report, Senators Marcos and Marcoleta can expound on what they said in their so-called minority report, and it is taken up in plenary. That is the proper procedure. Otherwise, if we allow this process, Gretchen, you have 24 republics in the Senate or 24 senators. If this is followed, then each committee or each Senate will each senator will just disregard the proceedings in the Blue Ribbon, make their own moves, submit their own report, and you can imagine the confusion that will be raised if this procedure is followed. So this procedure is not consistent with the rules of this.
Help us understand the weight of this document, the Blue Ribbon Committee report, because kayo na po nagsabi, no, they would need to vote on the Blue Ribbon Committee report. The majority will need to agree on one report to submit to the plenary. Tapos sa plenary ho, pwedeng side by side po yung objections ng minority. Am I getting that correct? And can that be lodged into Senate files? What is the weight and importance of that report that was enough to cause all of this brouhaha?
The procedure, Gretchen, is when the Blue Ribbon Committee report is submitted to the plenary. It is calendared for debates. In the debate, the minority can raise questions and issues on the contents of the committee report. And if they submit amendments to the committee report, we submit it to the plenary, that will be voted upon by the entire Senate. If the majority of the senators vote to accept the amendments of the minority report, then that report finds its way in the committee report adopted by the Senate. Otherwise, if we do not have that kind of procedure, you will have chaos. You will have 24 republics presenting to the public its views and certainly as a minority report. So, to me, that should not be allowed.
And will this report have weight in the courts?
In the
the courts, in the Sandigan Bayan, in the courts.
It has the same weight as any testimony because the report will, assuming that the proper procedure was followed. Assuming that the proper procedure was followed, what the minority should have done is to, when the committee report is being crafted by the majority, they submit this as the minority report and append it and attach it as part of the committee report. The majority submits a report, and attached to that is the minority report. That is allowed under our rules for a proper order. Hindi naman po pwedeng, sabi ko nga, 24 ang senador. If they submit 24 reports and that is all accepted, you can imagine the chaos and the misunderstanding that can arise. So the orderly procedure is to submit the minority report to the committee. The committee, when it submits its report to the Senate, can append the minority report as in its main report and submit this for debates.
Would the senators involved in the corruption scandal need to inhibit from voting on the report?
Inhibition is a matter of personal choice. Yes, there is basis to inhibit, but not the basis is the personal judgment of the senator. The allegation of involvement in this scam is not a ground for inhibition under our rules. But it is addressed to the better judgment and of each senator, and they will have to answer to the electorate when they vote on this report.
What only consists of the grounds of inhibition? If it's not involvement in the
Conflict of interest because of financial,
Conflict of
for
interest.
example, financial interest in a report submitted to the Senate. For example, just to be concrete, fund size is submitted to the Senate for approval. A senator who has an interest in the entity given the franchise should inhibit because of the clear
okay.
conflict of interest.
Okay.
Now,
So,
use the same language and standard in this particular case because the senator concerned can claim that the allegation is false and therefore I should participate because there has been no finding that I am involved in the anomaly.
okay. In the event that the minority does get the numbers, because we know we're moving closer to 2028 and we don't know what's going to happen. Politically, as a separate sphere from the flood control probe itself, what if they do get the numbers? How will this turn things around? I mean, if you take a look at that minority report, they zoned in on the former House Speaker, Martin Romualdez, being either complicit in the anomalous flood control scandal or negligent in his job. It also says, or somehow exonerated Senator Chis Escudero and Senator Jinggoy Estrada, saying that the supposed corrupt practices of DPWH and their implication could be considered hearsay unless supported by object evidence and corroborative statements from other witnesses. Wala rin ho yung, sa akin nababasa ho sa mga reports, wala rin ho yung pangalan ni Senator Joel at Senator Bong. I'm not sure if yun ang kabuuan.
Gretchen.
Oo.
There's no majority report yet. So I don't know what is the basis of that statement na wala pa po kayo nakikita na nabanggit yung mga pangalan nila doon sa report. There is no report yet, only media reports.
Yes, oo. Sa media lang ho. Pero kung sakasakali ho na they do get the numbers for this minority report, how would that change things? Would for example, the ombudsman have to make this? Can they make this as a material evidence for to somehow charge the House Speaker? Ano pong effect po niyan sa flood control probe?
Gretchen, if the report of the Blue Ribbon is reversed by the plenary, meaning that the majority of the senators will now vote for the minority report.
Yes.
It will result in a change of leadership in the Senate because then that is a manifestation of the lack of confidence of the majority in the majority representation in the Blue Ribbon, and therefore that can cause a change of leadership.
Okay, because they have the numbers for this report.
Obviously, they have the numbers to reverse what, say, Senator Lacson and his colleagues in the majority writes in the committee report. If that is in effect reversed in plenary by a majority of the senators, then it is a clear indication of loss of confidence, and therefore the reorganization of the Senate becomes a consequence.
And so do you think that's the real thing that's happening behind this report? That there's a crisis of sorts at a tug of war in the Senate leadership?
You know, Gretchen, that's a conclusion
challenge.
that I don't want to get into. But what I can tell you is that the majority in the Senate is very thin. Manipis po. Ilan ba yan? What you need in the Senate is at least 13 votes to have the majority. Right now, I think it's 15-9, if I'm not mistaken, and therefore the hold of the Senate majority is very tenuous. It can change. That is why there is so much instability there. You keep on hearing about coup d'etats in the Senate because the majorities number is tenuous. I can imagine. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. A member of the majority is Senator Pia Cayetano. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is in the majority, is the minority. Suppose Senator Cayetano aspires to become Senate President. What do you think will be the vote of Pia? Do you think he will vote against the brother? Of course not. So it only demonstrates what I am saying, that the manipis po yung mayorya, the majority is very tenuous. That is why there is so much instability because of that situation in the Senate.
Wait, Senator, we're talking about the report, and the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings have not even wrapped up. What about the timing? When should we expect the report? Di ba pagkatapos na ho yun ng lahat? And do you think the Senate is about to wrap up the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings? If you take a look at the whole corruption problem, we haven't even gotten down to what was institutionally or wrong with the agencies involved here. For example, COA, hindi pa po sila, kumbaga parang hindi pa po nakikita kung ano pa pwedeng palitan doon sa proseso, functionally, institutionally, to be able to prevent this from happening again. Those things, the deeper structural things that result to systemic corruption. But what is your sense? Are we about to wrap up the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings? Is the Senate about to do that?
Gretchen, the matter of whether or not the investigation has been completed is addressed to the sound discretion of the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. I do not pretend to know everything that has been submitted nor discussed in the Blue Ribbon hearings, and whether or not there is sufficient data gathered is left to the discretion of the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. Let us not forget, and you have cited it, that the purpose of the committee hearings is not to send somebody to jail. The purpose of the committee hearing is in aid of legislation. That is why they gather testimony to see what's wrong with the system, how can we correct the system. And as you correctly said, there is the COA that must submit its report on how this can be prevented, or this anomaly can be prevented. A lot of other things. But as I said, I am not in a position to pass judgment as to whether the report or the committee hearings have been completed.
Kasi usually pumapasok na ho yung COA pag natapos na ho yung proyekto, kaya hindi po nape-prevent. At meron pang isa ho na napag-uusapan noon, yung role ng LGU naman. But the DPWH has said that they need to be more involved in this, and we do see na marami pa that could be fixed, that is not being looked at here. But let me take this discussion to another subject, which is impeachment over in Congress. Your thoughts on the impeachment complaint against the president? Do you agree it is dead on arrival in its current substance and form? Have you read it, at least in the media, what was released?
Firstly, I must emphasize, Gretchen, that impeachment is a political process or quasi-legal, meaning that the evidence that are to be presented in a judgment that is made in an impeachment proceeding is not strictly governed by the rules of evidence. It is a political process involving the removal of a impeachable official, a president, vice president, justice of the Supreme Court, etc. So, I have been through it twice. And there you actually see that the vote of the senator, judges, is not necessarily based on evidence, but on other considerations. It can be, in their own perception, what is the public interest, etc. So, having said that, it is not correct to judge an impeachment complaint simply on the basis of what we read in media or what we hear are allegations in the complaint, because it is a political process. And the impeachment complaint will progress depending on the vote of the House, who has exclusive jurisdiction to refer the issue to the Senate. Under under the Constitution, 1/3 of all the members of the House can affirm or reject an impeachment complaint, or refer it to the Senate for trial. So you can imagine there are what 260 or 300 members of the House, of all colors, of all persuasions. So you cannot expect that it be based on the evidence that is being presented, nor the allegations in the complaint. Of course, they have to answer theoretically to their constituents if they vote one way or the other in the impeachment complaint. But just to highlight the point that it is extremely wrong to say that, walang basehan yan, because again, the process is political.
And we are awaiting, other impeachment complaints to be filed against the president today, as reported earlier in the show. My final question for you, what happens now to Senator Bato de la Rosa, who has been missing in action? He is still an active sitting senator. What should the nation do about this, that he's not there, physically there, to perform his functions? Siya po ay sinisweldohan pa rin ng taong bayan. If he does not appear in the next years up until 2028, shouldn't he be, what recourses does the nation have in dealing with the status of Senator Bato?
If my memory serves me right, in the past, in the case, I cannot remember who the senator involved was. It would be Ping Lacson himself, where we suspended the monetary emoluments that goes with the office of the senator on the ground that he is not performing the functions attached to the office. So that is what we did. Of course, you cannot drag Senator Bato to the Senate to make him attend the sessions. But as an institution, there are remedies, limited as it is, because Senator Bato is in the Senate by virtue of the vote of the people. The Senate, as an institution, can take action, as in suspending payments to Senator Bato, on payments due to Senator Bato on the ground that he is not performing his functions, even if he is free to do so. The distinction must be made in the case of Senator Laila de Lima, when he was Congresswoman Laila de Lima now, when she was in the Senate, she was arrested. And therefore, and so she performed her functions through her staff. She signed and examined committee reports. She was provided all the documents necessary, and she continued to function as a senator, but given the limitation that the authorities then under President Duterte did not want her to attend the Senate. So it was involuntary on the part of Senator De Lima then. But in the case of Senator Bato de la Rosa, siya mismo ang ayaw humarap sa Senado. Kaya po ang remedyo po dyan, do not provide any or suspend the salary emoluments of Senator De La Rosa. Otherwise, you have to answer to the people for this of public funds. Hindi naman po pwede yan. But let me just, I hope you give me time. What I saw earlier in your report is that there is the ombudsman and the DILG and whoever is entertaining a filler from Zaldico. I think this is wrong. What we should do, Gretchen, is enforce the law. They should exert every effort to bring Zaldico here rather than entertain fillers. Fillers for what? Fillers for what? The Zaldico is charged with having stolen billions of pesos. Why are we sending fillers? Why are we entertaining fillers? Enforce the law. So his passport has been cancelled. The DFA should now use diplomatic avenues to bring Zaldico back. What are these? This is, we have diplomatic. There are certain weapons in the diplomatic world that you can use to achieve the desired national interest. Dito po, I would send this message. Let us change our attitude. For once, let us enforce the rule of law, meaning that we should exert every effort to bring Mr. Zaldico back because he has caused all of these difficulties that we are facing today. So I would like to use your program to send a message to our friends Rebullias, not to negotiate, but enforce the law so that this culture of impunity can at least be stopped.
Loud and clear. Strong statement from you on that. Maraming salamat for joining us this morning and helping us understand what is happening over at the Senate as well as the House. And we have former Senate President Franklin Drilon. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras.
Thank you.
And up next, new legal troubles for Vice President Sara Duterte as she faces fresh plunder and graft charges. We'll discuss that and more with former Senator Sonny Trillanes when Morning Matters returns. Keep it here in One News. Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here in One News. Vice President Sara Duterte faces a new set of plunder and graft complaints over the alleged misuse of confidential funds. The charges were filed yesterday before the Ombudsman by former Senator Sonny Trillanes and a civil society group called the Silent Majority. The new filing alleges anomalies during Duterte's tenure as Education Secretary and as Mayor of Davao City, including claims that she received funds from personalities linked to the illegal drug trade. The complaints also took note of Ramil Madriaga's affidavit submitted to the Office of the Ombudsman in December. And now we have on the show former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV to tell us more about those charges. Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Senator.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo, Ms. Gretchen.
Okay, tell us all about the grounds of these plunder and graft charges and how do you intend to submit the corroborating evidence on these charges?
Okay, kahapon po, kasama na doon sa complaint namin yung mga corroborating evidence necessary for the Ombudsman to file cases sa Sandigan Bayan. They can still, of course, they will still go through the fact-finding phase kasi protocol ng Ombudsman yan. But, we have given enough information, enough documentary evidence para ma-pursue nila yung cases. Ang mga included dito sa final namin, actually 23 counts ito. 23 different instances of violations of the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, plunder law, yung Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards ng public officials. Ano doon po lahat yun? So, ano yan? Aside dun sa 650 million pesos confidential funds misuse na familiar yung mga kababayan natin, meron pang 2.7 billion pesos na confidential funds misused din ni Sara Duterte when she was mayor of Davao City. 2.7 billion yan. May 8 billion pesos na overpriced laptops when she was DepEd Secretary. May 12 billion COA disallowances as DepEd Secretary. 7 billion unauthorized, unliquidated cash advances nung DepEd Secretary. May more than 2 billion pesos ill-gotten wealth siya and na-declaration sa SALN. And yung bribery because she received dividends from a drug lord when she was mayor of Davao City. So lahat po yan, nandoon. Yung mga ebidensya yan, yung iba we got from Quantum, yung iba nakuha namin sa sarili naming research. At kasama na dyan yung mga bank accounts issue na 2016 ko pa nire-raise na hanggang ngayon iniiwasan nila. Ayun, nakarating. At itong bank accounts na to, na-corroborate na ito nung ombudsman noong 2017, specifically si Overall Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang, nakuha niya the same set of documents at yun ang reason kung ba't siya tinanggal sa pwesto ni Digong. So, yan po yan. We are confident of our evidence.
Okay. Medyo malalaki ho yung mga amounts, no? All in the billions, except for the confidential funds. So, ang alam po ng publiko, ito pong confidential funds na nasa 650 million and over 100 million already used up in 11 days. Yan po yung matunog. Dito po sa bilyones, so how do you intend to prove graft and malversation by the Vice President herself? Mayroon po ba tayong mga dokumento na magtuturo that there was intent to plunder?
Ano po, yung iba po, graft, specifically, lahat po yan documentary evidence to, COA documents po yan. Hindi naman namin just from our imagination yung sinulat namin. No, we got this from documents from the Quadcom na kinuha yung mga documents from COA and the other pertinent agencies. So, for example, itong overpriced laptops, yan, graft po yan. So, lahat po ng mga lumabas doon sa Quadcom hearing na rig bidding ito. So, it's the same modus as yung flood control issue na lumalabas dyan. Yan yun. Documentary evidence mainly yan. Tapos siya, as the approving authority, liable siya. So, that's just one case. Pero yung 2.7 billion pesos na misuse ng confidential fund, pareha sila ng modus dun sa 650 million. Ito yung Mary Grace Piatos, di ba? And the other issues name. Ganun din po ang ginawa niyang modus doon sa Davao City when she was mayor. Tinuloy-tuloy nila ito. Nung mayor si Digong, ganun din. So they passed it on. 11,000 ghost employees ang ginamit nila to liquidate yung annual confidential fund sila na nag-accumulate nga sa 2.7 billion. Ito lang, just to cite one example, annually 450 million pesos ang confidential intelligence funds ng Davao City. Ngayon yan ay more than all of the Metro Manila cities combined. So doon yung makikita kung saan sila nagdidispalgo ng pera ng gobyerno.
So you're also calling on the courts to look into how these millions, hundreds of millions of confidential funds were used when she was mayor of Davao City.
Yes, yan po yun.
Pero hindi niyo pa po nakikita kung yung mga resibo?
Meron na pong COA report niyan.
Sa Davao?
Opo, sa Davao City. Kaya nga, yun supposed to be, this is an open and shut case. But because of yun nga yung kanilang sense of impunity and entitlement, hindi to sanay ng nananagot. Ginagamit nila intimidation tactics kaya they're getting away with it. Walang nagpe-pursue ng cases. So this is the first time they will be held to account for these actions. Kaya nakita niyo yung audacity nung naging vice president na siya, nung ini-scrutinize siya sa Quadcom, di ba? Yung demeanor niya talagang parang, how dare you investigate me, parang ganon. Kasi that's the first time in her life na inatawag siya for that. Yung ginagawa niyang, yung modus nga na yun na magbibigay lang sila ng mga pangalan, kung ano-ano, mag-iimbento sila ng pangalan para lang makuha yung cash na yun and that they can spend it as they please. They've been doing that since mayor sila ng Davao City.
Another allegation here that you put on the table is that she received money from a drug lord during her term as Davao City mayor. Do you have proof of that?
Yes. Present ko na po yan sa Quadcom. In fact, paulit-ulit ako nito. 2016 pa, di ba? Tapos nung sa Quadcom, nung 2024, the chairman of that committee asked and requested Digong na kung pwede niyang pirmahan yung waiver ng bank accounts niya right then and there para lang to prove once and for all na kung wala siyang kinalaman. At anong ginawa niya, di ba? Nag-eksena siya, papaluin daw niya ako ng mic para lang malihis yung attention. At the end of that hearing, he did not sign a waiver, pero present ko po doon lahat, the account numbers, how much got in, kung lahat sila magkakapatid. Kasama si Hanilet, pati nga si Kitty. Meron silang manager's checks from the drug lord, Sami Uy, na sinabi ni Las Cañas na partner ni Michael Yang. So, it was there. It's very specific. Nakuha ko yung documents na yon, binigay ko yun sa ombudsman, final ko yung plunder. Yung ombudsman nag-imbestiga, nakuha niya from AMLAC, sabi niya the same. Tapos because of that, tinanggal siya sa pwesto ni Digong. And end of story, andito tayo ngayon. So they have been evading this issue time and again. And nagtataka naman ako, every time I talk about it, it's as if people are hearing it for the first time. No, I've been over this thing over and over.
We do know that the vice president is an impeachable official, and an impeachable official can only be removed from office via an impeachment court. So what is the outcome that you're hoping for by submitting this complaint to the Office of the Ombudsman?
Ganito po, yung impeachment kasi is administrative in nature, tatanggalin siya sa pwesto. Yan lang ang penalty nun. Pero ito kasing ombudsman case, criminal in nature ito, so may penalty ito ng kulong. Ngayon, untested pa yung theory na hindi siya pwedeng kasuhan. Pero pwede siyang imbestigahan. So ngayon, pag natapos yung investigation phase at isasampa na yan sa Sandigan Bayan, her supporters, her lawyers can question it sa Supreme Court kung pwede ba yun o hindi. Pero hindi naman siya tatanggalin sa pwesto pananagutin lang siya. Kasi otherwise, pag sinabi mong meron siyang immunity, kahit may barilin siya sa gitna ng EDSA in broad daylight na naka-video lahat, hindi mo siya magagalaw until matapos yung termino niya. I doubt it. Hindi pwede. May limits yung immunity na yon, di ba? In the pursuance of her duty as vice president in this case. Pero may preventive dapat detention para kung may tama ka na sa utak, you keep on shooting people every day. Di ba? Ano yun? Hindi natin pwedeng ikulong mo, i-detain siya para maproteksyonan yung ibang miyembro ng lipunan. Di ba? That's how you test the theory of immunity.
Okay, looking at, sabi niyo nga ho, meron kayong hawak na ebidensya laban sa Vice Presidente. Pero are all of these direct evidence of her giving the go signal, or is this more of a command responsibility thing? Because yun din po yung isa sa mga grounds ng impeachment complaint na inihain laban naman sa Presidente pagdating dito sa flood control probe na hinayaan niya yung ganyang korupsyon. Also, against the House Speaker, pareho yung allegations. In terms of strength of case, are you confident na meron po kayong mga talagang magtuturo na ang Vice Presidente po talaga yung kumbaga principal dito that allowed all of these disallowances at unliquidated advances?
Yes, ganito, no? I'm sorry, pero malayo naman yung comparison mo na itong presidente should be liable for all of these things happening sa loob ng bansa kasi presidente. He may be responsible, pero iba yung accountable, yung diretso na yung pwede ka managot sa batas. Siya, head of agency, head of office. Ito, you have a specific you have witnesses who said siya nagbigay ng pera sa kanila. Ito yung isang undersecretary niya na binibigyan sila ng sobre every month. Tapos itong si Madriaga, sinasabi niya sa kanya binibigay yung pera at distribute niya. Tapos itong sa bidding, for example, yung procurement documents ng overpriced laptop, siya yung signatory. Itong kay Bong Revilla nga, Senator Bong Revilla na pinasuhan based on a 90 million peso flood control project. Tapos may isang witness na nagbigay siya ng pera. Yun na yun di ba? O tapos, ito nga yung kay Sara Duterte na nakita natin siya doon sa Quadcom. Inako niya na nangyari sa kanya ito, na sa kanya lahat yung responsibilidad. Dinefend niya yung mga subordinates na mga nagkakasala. Naman, parang nagbubulag-bulagan na tayo. We're giving her way too much leeway. Kaya siya nakakalusot ng mga ganyang krimen dahil ganyan yung mindset natin. No, parehas dapat. Yung ibang nakasuhan at nakulong, given the same standards should be applied to her.
Senator, we do know that the Vice President is the front runner for President in 2028. That's according to surveys. And so there are critics who say that these filings are politically motivated to stop her. Kasi nga ho, parang lahat daw ginagawa to be able to prevent her from running. What would you say to that?
Alam niyo, sabi ko nga kanina, 2016 pa ako nandito ginagawa yan. Asan ba siya? Mayor pa lang yata siya ng not even. Kumbaga, ano ba to? When can we start filing these cases? Nasa politika sila Di talagang at some point naabutan ng election cycle. Pero kailan ko ba tong final? 2016 pa ito, yung bank accounts issue. By the way, you're asking for pangalan niya yun Manager's check yun in her name. Diba? These are bank accounts na sinasabi niya, alam niyo naman yung bangko. You will have to sign signature cards, lahat-lahat. So wala nang duda yun. So, even assuming, pumasok sa election cycle, which is 2 years away pa, by the way, paano to? Hindi na sila pwedeng kasuhan kasi sasabihin nila na, dahil yan sa politika, dahil takbo ko election. Come on, di ba? Dapat yung argumento na yan basura ka agad yan. Ako, when they filed almost 30 cases against me during the time, nung panahon ni Duterte, hindi naman ako umiyak na, hinaharas ako kasi opposition ako, kinikriticize ko sila. Hindi, I just face them one by one. Hindi, awa ng Diyos, ilan na lang yung naiiwa. That's just how it is. Diba? Pag gumawa ka ng krimen, kakasuhan ka. Regardless kung may eleksyon ba yan o wala. That's just how simple it is.
Okay. Maraming salamat sa pagpapaliwanag ng latest development, no. The former senator along with the Senate majority officially filing plunder and grafted malversation charges to the office of the ombudsman. Maraming salamat again for your time this morning. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes IV.
Maraming salamat po.
And that wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. We hope we've given you the right start to your morning. Let's go ahead and make the day matter. My name is Gretchen Ho. Kapatid, we are One News, all sides, all the time.